They become influential by becoming the definitive answer to a particular question. They become the go to person for solving one valuable problem. And this is the whole idea behind the one problem rule. It's about getting so good at solving one specific valuable problem that you become synonymous with the solution. Your name becomes the shortcut. When people have that problem, they think of you. Full stop. This isn't just about getting a promotion, it's about a fundamental change. And we're going to be changing how you create value and, as a result, how the world sees and rewards you for that value. We live in a culture that worships more, the ideology of more, more productivity, more side hustles, more skills for your resume, more LinkedIn connections. We're taught to believe that the path to success is paved with a relentless pileup of activities. The result, a workforce of well meaning, hardworking people who are stretched to their breaking points. And this is the disease of the more, a chronic state of being busy but not effective, of having a wide range of shallow knowledge but not deep, undeniable expertise. It's the feeling of running on a hamster wheel. You're expanding enormous energy, but you're not actually going anywhere. You're active, but you're not advancing. And I'm going to be honest with you. I've talked to quite a few people. A good buddy of mine from Taiwan, and I tell them all the time, it's like, do you ever just stop, just take a day or two out of your week and do absolutely nothing? A day off is not a day off if you don't let your body rest. The fact is, not only do we have to let our bodies rest, we have to let our minds rest too. If we're always trying to find something to do, always trying to find something to get ourselves involved in, you know that problems are stressful, even if they're not your problems. There's a level of stress there. And if you are putting yourself deliberately into an extensive quantity of unnecessarily stressful situations, just so that you can be perceived as somewhat of a hero of said stressful situation, that does not help you as much because as we've talked about, hypervigilance, you end up with stagnant anxiety, frustration, anger, and this puts you in a situation where you start developing poor health sooner. You never have clarity, you never have the clear mindset, you're always fatigued. We're going to be talking about that more along the way, but let me paint a picture to you. See if this person sounds familiar. We're going to call this person Generalist Jen. Now, Generalist Jen is talented, ambitious. Everyone at her company likes her. You know, she wants to grow, become a leader, have real influence. So she says yes to everything. She joins the social committee to build the relationships. She volunteers to learn new project management software, and this helps her to be seen as more useful. She helps the marketing team with their newsletter because she's a decent writer and she attends every optional webinar from intro to AI to advanced spreadsheet formulas. On paper, Jen looks like the perfect employee. She's a team player, she's versatile, she's proactive, but in reality, Jen's exhausted. She's always busy, but her work lacks a defining purpose, and When a major high stakes project comes up that requires a true expert, someone to solve a complex coding bug or devise a groundbreaking marketing strategy, Jen's name just doesn't come up. People like Jen, but they don't see her as the solution to their biggest problems. She is helpful, but not indispensable. Michael says, "Okay, I'm here." Had to fight my way through all the ads to get here. It's fatiguing. Call him Mike. Okay. Special shout out to Michael. They ain't that you ain't fighting through that many ads. We've been on here for 20 minutes. They only hit you with like 3 minutes worth of non-skippable ads. But if you jumped in late, they'll ads will slap you in the face as soon as you jump on. Happy Saturday night. Happy Saturday. It's storming outside. Winds about 25 miles per hour. And what is that? Torrential rain. So we're not experiencing any rain. Uh, so wherever you are, I would say bring you a raincoat, an umbrella, one of those plastic ones, not the one with the metal lightning rod on it. And try not to get electrocuted out there. Drive slow. That's the best I can tell you. Or stay your ass at home. I know it's cold out here now. It's cold out here. I just turned the heat up to 74. I'm gonna have to turn it back down because it's starting to get hot in here. But it's like 60 degrees outside right now. We're starting to creep into the fall weather. Even though we're getting close to seasonally winter, we're getting climate wise into the fall weather. So it's going to be cool. Uh, Not ice cold, but it's going to be cool. Is getting you an aluminum hat. It's got to be an aluminum fedora with an aluminum feather sticking out of it. Uh, so Jen's influence is a mile wide and about an inch deep. She is a utility player, valuable in the pinch, but never the star of the game with a little propeller on top. Well, it wouldn't be a fedora if it's got a propeller on top. I'm not trying to fly away. So Jen's brand is helpful and willing, not brilliant and essential. And this is the quiet tragedy of the generalist. So, in trying to be good at everything, you risk becoming truly great at nothing. And in a world that's only getting noisier, greatness is what gets noticed. Greatness is what builds influence. The psychological trap here is sneaky. The pursuit of more feels productive. Each new task or skill gives you a little hint of dopamine, a feeling of accomplishment. It's a tangible way to feel like you're making progress, but it's an illusion. It's the difference between rearranging the furniture and building the house. One feels like work, but only the other creates lasting value. The scattered effort has real consequences because first, your expertise stays shallow. He said, Jenna being used. Yeah, well, no, Jenna's throwing herself out there. She ain't being used. She's volunteering for all this crap. And I got to tell you that there's a lot of people that need to know that spreading yourself too thin just to be seen, that's not good for you. Sometimes volunteering too much is a bad thing for you. He says, you feel like you're helping, but in the long run, burns you out. Exactly. Exactly. Uh, Arthur Cal Newport talks about deep work, the ability to focus without distraction. on a demanding task. Most of us can only do that these days if we're focused on playing video games. But when you look at video games, the game itself might be your focus. But if you look at each one of the individual sub quests, side quests, main quests, tutorial quests, you're actually spending seconds on multiple different targets at the same time. And as you so holistically complete the easiest targets first to progress the quickest in the shortest period of time, because each task you complete gives you rewards that expedites your growth in the game, you find yourself on the game for hours, but your level hasn't gotten that far. You can get to probably combat level within 24 hours. You might even be able to be like mid range battle ready. But before you figure out how to strategize with the game, you're getting attacked by everybody else that's stronger than you. And it's a troll system. So now you're going to spend most of your time trying to figure out how to build a defense long after your rookie shield is gone because you did too much in too many different areas and you didn't find a focus. 80% noise, 20% work. Well, you also have, we've talked about that before. So I'm glad that you're able to coin that, Michael. We talked about that before in one of our other shows about organizing your tasks and your utility. The thing is that out of 100% of the things that you do, only 20% of them have 80% of the most value to your life. The other 80% of the things that you do only has 20% of value to your life. And that's why I've told you guys to find five things, two things that are very important, three things that are not that important, and you try to tackle them. Try to make sure that you cover at least one of the two important things, and then cover one of the three non-important things, where you finish your day with no less than two things accomplished every day. You will find first and foremost that your must do's get done, and the ones that are not that important don't always get done, putting you in a position to recognize that you put off the one thing that wasn't important for so long that you can actually acknowledge that it is not relevant for you to do at all. There are certain things that you just have to do. It goes from being a eventually to a I got to get it now because the deadline is due, like updating the registration on your vehicle, renewing your driver's license, updating your car insurance, stuff to that effect, the to do list model. But when you start thinking about the applications with aiding people with tasks, getting involved in other work scenarios, your to do list um, isn't about what you do for other people. Your to do list is about what things you want to accomplish for yourself. Now we're talking about how you expel yourself for other people and how you do it in a way where you're going to find value. Now, Carl argues that this skill is becoming incredibly rare and valuable, the deep work skill. By constantly switching context, you rob yourself of focused time needed to develop true mastery over anything. He said, "Oh, God, you know, teamwork, exactly. Your brain is always learning at a surface level, but it rarely gets to build the complex neural pathways of genuine expertise. It's a lot like having the natural skill, uh, or no, the natural talent, not the natural skill. You have a natural talent at being really good at games when you first start playing them. On a surface level, if everybody plays the game for the first time, you might win for the first 10 or 15 games. But once people start practicing, strategizing, learning new ways to approach the game, their skill set will surpass your talent, and you'll end up never winning. You don't have to practice. This happens with highly intelligent individuals in school. You don't have to study, you don't have to do the homework, you just know the answers. Well, the work starts becoming so complicated that those individuals that practice find themselves in a position where uh, you're going to get stuck and you're going to need help. And that's what happens. Like you're not going to be the elite for long if you do not practice and hone your talent into a skill. He says checkmate. Well, yeah, checkmate is right. Because eventually you get burnt out and you get passed up. Second, your reputation is going to get blurry. Branding is all about clarity. Volvo means safety, right? Apple means intuitive, right? What do you mean? If the answer is a little bit of everything, then in the minds of others, it means nothing specific. Ironically, this and that, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between, we get categorized into three different key areas, but not one specific niche. So until you come in and you see the value of each of the things that we cover, it's not the type of podcast that screams, go here to improve yourself for business and finance, go here to improve yourself for relationships. You know what I'm saying? It says most people are pawns to be used and thrown away. Well, most people behave like pawns because they believe that they will get knighted once they reach the other side. But imagine if you are playing the game and you must move every space on the board before you get to the other side. You must touch every single black and white square on the board before you get to the other side of the board. How much longer does it take for you to get knighted or queened than the average individual that gets straight to the point? So you find yourself being utilized for a bunch of different things. You might be the nifty helper to 80 different people, but not the go to person that 80 different people are recommending. Exactly, a pawn storm. Exactly. When a decision maker is looking for the best person to solve a critical problem, they don't have time to sift through your long list of generalized skills. They don't really care. Everybody has the older you get, the more skills you should have acquired over your lifetime. You will come to find that if you did the old school resume at 40, 50, 60 years old, that resume might be like 70 pages long. But if you start generalizing all of the skills that you learned, it might be 5 pages long. When you start generalizing special skills that are exclusively tuned to the job you're trying to go for, then you become valuable. But when you think about how you would tweak that resume for different types of jobs, where you would not include skills that you clearly have that are not relevant to that job, but you would include skills that you didn't have on the last resume because it applies to this job. Putting 20% of what you're good at that is exclusive to this particular job application on this particular resume to aid in standing out. Because these individuals, they're looking for specialists. In order to put their aces in their places, they want to have a handful of aces, not a bunch of twos. Third, like Michael said, you're going to burn out. Constantly juggling unrelated priorities. is mentally draining. Our brains aren't designed for perpetual switching. It creates what's called attention residue, where thoughts of your last task linger and disrupt your focus on the current task. This leads to lower quality work, more stress, and a feeling of being perpetually behind. You end up feeling like you're failing at 10 things instead of succeeding at one. The myth of the well rounded generalist is a realistic idea, but it is still a relic. In today's hyper specialized world, everyone must be a specialist at something. And then egotistically, they want to throw their degree on the table or throw their years of experience on the table to make it seem like they're more qualified to answer that question. We've had it on debates on this podcast quite a few times. I do not have to be 50 years in the business in order to do my due diligence and research to be able to show you how the information that you're telling me doesn't match up with the information that I have found to be relevant to this discussion. And when we're fact checking facts, your years of experience do not always have to line up with the facts. Take, for example, the discussion we had a few weeks back when we discussed whether or not apartment complexes more often than not have pools in them. After quite a bit of discussion, it fact was that smaller complexes less often have pools in them, but mid-range and larger apartment complexes have pools in them. And when we're talking about the size, we're not talking about the size of the building, we're talking about the size of the land the building is on. Less land, less space, not feasible. More land, more space, more feasible. And more often than not, they're able to charge more so they get their money's worth. Most mid to large size apartment complexes these days are fitted with pools and home fitness gyms, and some, depending on the size depending on the size of them, actually have parks and playgrounds for the kids, dog parks and stuff to that effect. And all of these amenities, clubhouses, and everything to that effect, all add into the cost of you staying on the land. So instead of you paying $1 per square foot, you start spending two, five, $10 per square foot to rent that same piece of property. The difference between the exclusivity of having a washer and dryer in your own unit versus having an accessible common area to utilize laundry is the difference between paying a few extra dollars more on your rent to have the washer and dryer versus um, having to go out to a common area and wash clothes. The extra cost on the rent for the pri- reserve parking, privatized parking, covered parking, where instead of first come first serve, you have to, get in there and pay extra to get specifics. Again, we look for specialized, exclusive, right? And all of this leads to the people with the most influence are usually the specialists, the people who know the most about what's going on in this situation. They're the ones who had the discipline to say no to 100 good ideas so that they could say yes to the one great problem that would define them. They choose depth over breadth. They understood that real influence doesn't come from being a jack of all trades, it comes from literally being the master of one. And if you are the master of one, this is one thing that I actually didn't think about throwing into the script. When you master one task, and You have five friends that each master a task. The six of you can refer one another to people who are looking for one of those six tasks. You do what you do best, and then you hire somebody else to do the things you don't know how to do. Instead of being the jack of all trades where you can barely get by surface level scenarios, you can literally focus on fixing all of the things in your life that need to be fixed because you're only responsible for the thing that you're good at and you're delegating the need to a specialist of everything else you're not good at. The large complex is true. Swimming pool and gym, the complex of that size would have around 150 to 300 units or doors. Yeah. Well, that actually if you have 150, it really depends on how many buildings you have, and it really depends on how many acres you have, and how many acres those buildings are on. Because again, you're assuming because you can put 300 units in a hotel, and that hotel could be 3 stories tall. It could be a box shape where you have 100 units on each floor, um, and you could have like 25 doors on each side of a square shaped hotel space. And then in the center, you could have a swimming pool there. You could also have 15 um, buildings, 15 different buildings. And each one of those buildings have 10 units in them. And if you got 15 different buildings, you might actually have 5 acres or so, where you might have a tennis court there, you might have a pool, you might have a clubhouse. Now, you're saying that specifically 62 units normally don't have pools, and that's not true because 62 units, they could be a bunch of duplexes in a neighborhood. There could be a bunch of fourplexes in a neighborhood where that whole neighborhood is one complex. When you start talking about a complex, an apartment complex, not an apartment building, an apartment complex, you could again have 4 units to a building. And if you had 4 units to a building with 62 of them, you're looking at what, 20 buildings, give or take, spread out across 1 to 2 acres, which would still have tennis courts, pools, a clubhouse. It depends on the size of the land. Now, if you have 62 units on one building that has a parking lot strip in the front, you're probably not going to have a pool in the back. But it is not true that just because there's 62 units to the building that it is not going to have a pool because you're mistaking an apartment building with an apartment complex, and then you're mistaking the ideology that an apartment complex cannot have only 62 units in it spread across 20 buildings. So at the end of the day, yes, you personally might own a building that has 62 units in the one building, and that one building does not have pools in the back. But that does not mean that on average, that 62 units by definition means no pool in the back or anywhere on the property. It is the quantity of space, the size of the land that those 62 units are spread across that clearly determines how many units are in each building and whether or not there's a pool in the property and whether or not there's other amenities on the property. But here in 2025, more often than not, the complexes do have a pool. Unless it's a really small complex, it does have a pool. If it's just one building, that's not a complex, that's an apartment building. And if it's just a building, it's not likely to have a pool on a regular basis. But that would be considered a small apartment building, not a complex. He said you can have as many buildings you like depending on the code. Right, but depending on the code, while you can have as many buildings as you like, you can also have a pool there for 62 units if there's enough land in between the units to put a pool there, because the 62 units would be sharing the pool. So it's we covered the statistics, and I was able to prove it to you that yes, depending on the building structure, 62 units can have a pool. 10 units, it's probably going to be more often than not one building. But again, when you start talking about duplexes and fourplexes, you might have uh, 4 units to a building, or if it's a two-story, you might have 8 units to a building, four on each side, and you might only have two buildings there. If you only got two buildings on the land, and the land is a quarter acre piece of land with two buildings on it and a little parking lot there, you're not going to have an apartment complex there. And if you had 8 units per building, getting closer to 62, 64, you might have 8 buildings with 8 units in them, 2 stories up, and those 8 buildings could have a decent sized parking lot in it and still have a pool dead center of all of them. It is still possible. Just because your building doesn't have it doesn't mean that your experience is the greater experience of all apartments that size, of all rental properties that size. So it really just depends. But it's good that you have one that is more consolidated because you have less maintenance. So, what is the antidote to the disease of always applying yourself to the more method? How do you escape generalist curse? Because being a generalist is a curse. Uh, Even when we started this podcast from being a broad spectrum podcast to consolidating it to exclusively things that benefit you financially, we're still spread a bit thin. But we have to try to funnel it into making it make sense in a way where you're financially good. Is it back from walking the dogs? What did I miss? Not much. We're still getting through it. We're a third of the way in. um, right now, we're talking about a principle that is so simple, it feels almost radical. And I like coming from the unorthodox discussions. And the reason why I like coming from the unorthodox discussions is because I've already covered the surface level stuff that everybody should already know. And then I come back and start discussing things that we don't really pay attention to that we should, because the less used methods are just as effective as the most common methods, but they have better results because not everybody's doing it that way. And that's something that you got to think about. The one rule problem, that's what we're going to be dealing with right now. And let's define it clearly. The one rule problem, or the one problem rule, that's what we're going to be dealing with. One problem rule is the strategic decision to channel the majority of your directionary energy, learning, and effort into becoming the go to expert for solving one specific valuable problem. It's not about doing only one thing for the rest of your life. It's about building your core reputation, your magnetic brand around a single pillar of expertise. This becomes the center of gravity for your career. Everything else you do is secondary, a supporting activity, a non competing priority. It's almost like when you go to college, you have a major and a minor, and usually your major has the same core classes as your minor, or quite a few similar electives. You're not going in two separate directions. You're staying on your primary track, but the extra things that you do works towards the secondary track and can be checked off of the box of the primary track. He says, simple. You mean getting a job? No. It's not about getting a job. It's about making yourself more effective to qualify for the type of job you're trying to qualify for. Or if you're trying to run your own business, to start up the kind of business that you benefit from. Because it's not about you going to work to help somebody else make money and they might throw you a little change on the side. It's about you putting in effort to make work make more money for you, or you work less for the amount of money that you're getting, which gives you the ability to get some rest. If I'm in the market doing what I do and I've got to see 10 to 18 people a day to get my salary, then I specialize in it, increase the price, and now I find myself only needing 4 people a day to make the same quantity of money I used to make doing 18 people a day. And if each person got an hour out of my day, I have now shaved my day down to a 4 day work, a 4 hour work day. If I'm only working 4 hours a day, that gives me more time to rest. That gives me more time to plan. That gives me more time to check some of those little things off of my list that I haven't gotten to yet. That gives me more time to prioritize more of the big things that I wanted to get done. And by checking off the so many things that needed to get done this month, I can clearly say I did it all. Is do I get more pay if I know more than others? That's a good question. There's a two-part answer to that. So actually, it's a three-point answer now that I think about it. If what you know's got nothing to do with what you're currently doing, no, absolutely not. This comes from the dynamic because my buddy asked me, Mr. Pibbs asked me, um, if you're doing a job in sales or customer service, something to that effect, and you know multiple languages, should you get paid more because you can translate for the customer? My response is no. Communication with the customer was part of your job. Just because you can communicate with more customers than the average person on the job doesn't make you better than anybody else. But if you were getting paid on commission, if you were getting paid on sales, if you were getting bonuses off of performance, then because you can translate to other individuals, you can take on more sales than everybody else, which allows you to make more money than the others because they don't speak the language of the sales that are occurring. But usually, big business will take individuals that speak a certain language and put them in a market area that has that language dominant. Usually, here in America, we have the difference between English and Spanish. Individuals that speak Spanish will be in Latin culture communities. Individuals that don't speak Spanish will less likely be stationed in a Latin community. So you'll find that even though you might be able to translate, all that means is you'll get a full shift in that other location where that second language can be beneficial, as opposed to working part time in a situation where your second language wouldn't matter. Now, would you get paid more if you know more things? Well, if you know how to do more things on the same job, that qualifies you for promotion because the supervisory level is supposed to man all of the tasks that you've learned, then yeah, you can get more pay for that. Likewise, though, if you have more skills, the person that came to you for the one thing might be able to come back to you for something else because you're good at more than one thing. So, does it generally give you the ability to get more money? Yes, because while you're not going to get paid more per job for knowing more things, you'll get more jobs. If you're subcontracted, you'll get more contracts. You know what I mean? So, you ultimately, the more you know, the more opportunities you have to get paid. The more you're capable of doing, the more often you're capable of getting paid for what you do. I know more, therefore I'm the boss. It doesn't work that way. Things I don't know, I hire that skill. I can't make a pencil by myself. Well, here's the thing. You don't need to know squat to be the boss if you know how to delegate the work. Having a leadership mentality allows you to analyze a situation and determine what skills are needed to fulfill the tasks. Then, based on the quantity of available capital that you have versus the quantity of capital that's coming in based on the generation of work and services, you're able to utilize that capital to hire people at a certain rate to come in and fill those slots. When you're starting up a business from the ground up, you are doing all of the work 100% of the time. As you make extra money, you carve out money out of your profits to hire somebody to take over a specific job title's workload off of your hands so that you no longer have to focus on that. And then you do it again with each different position that you have in the business, which now puts you in a manager level because you're not doing all the work. You're not getting as much pay because you have to pay the workers, but you're not doing as much work. Now that you're just delegating, now you can focus on each person's performance, and then you can hire more individuals to either be trained by the best ones you've already got on the clock or come and aid them. And then whoever's the best gets promoted to a managerial level and have them train people. And now you're no longer training anybody, you're no longer micromanaging anybody. And now you're just talking to your managers, which elevates you as a boss. So you're not a boss just because you know more than the rest. You're a boss because your mentality is to automate this system by delegating the workload to responsible individuals who will manage it for you so that you don't have to manage it. It's going to take an area of trust, but I always have the mentality of find somebody that does it better than I do. Because if they can do what I want better than I can do it, then I don't need to do it. I trust your judgment because I can't do it better than you. And then I delegate the work. Is that I learned to delegate responsibilities to others. I'm still responsible for the outcome. Yeah, well, your profits are going to directly impact your outcome. Delegating frees up more time. I know less than most people. There you go. The same way we're always broke, we know less than most people. I know just enough to get me by the situations I'm trying to get in, and I learn more about the things that matter to me. It is what it is. I know more than most people that come to my channel because they never thought to look for this information. But let me find a specialist in one of the topics that I'm in. I might have them for 80% of the knowledge that we talk about, but the other 20% that they know that I don't know is what makes them a specialist. The best analogy for this is the domino effect. You've seen the video, a single tiny domino is tipped over and it starts a chain reaction, eventually toppling a domino the size of a building. How? Because the energy is transferred and magnified. Each domino can knock over another domino that is about 1.5 times its original size. The small initial push creates an unstoppable cascade of momentum. And this is exactly how the one problem rule works. Your one problem is your first domino. It's a challenge, small enough for you to master, but significant enough to get noticed. By focusing all your energy on toppling that first domino, by solving that one problem better than anyone else, you build credibility and generate influence. That initial win then gives you the leverage and reputation to tackle a slightly bigger related problem in the next domino. He says, if they know less than you, why hire them? Because they're capable of doing it. See, here's the funny thing. Um, when you start up a business, you need thinkers and you need doers. The thinkers are usually going to come in intro level as doers. Those are going to be the people who are going to be doing it long enough to think of ways to do it better. Those thinkers are going to be the ones you're going to promote into a managerial position so that they can teach other people to think the same way. Your doers are people who just show up and follow instructions. They don't think, they don't, you know, self-sufficiently automate themselves. They're like soldiers in the military. They do what they're told to do. They don't do what they think is best, and they don't do what they know needs to be done. They only do what they're told to do. You get doers. They don't have to know as much as you, but they will take your physical requirement to be present off of the table. They will get stuff done, which automates the workload, and then you can go focus on something else. You got your thinkers who will think of better ways to increase productivity, increase sales, increase performance, increase customer satisfaction, improving the brand of the company. And those thinkers will delegate that to the doers. So you don't need to hire people that know more than you. You need to hire people who can accomplish your task more efficiently than you do. But they're not going to know what needs to be tackled until after you hire them. So the training period is going to be you hiring them, seeing what they're capable of doing versus what they're willing to do. And then once you come across those individuals that are proactively able to do more, those are the ones that you're going to stick with. He said, what's the percentage of thinkers in the company? That depends on the size of the company and that depends on the type of company. It depends because, like, for example, take Amazon. Amazon is mostly moving boxes around. You don't necessarily have to have as many thinkers in Amazon as you would in Google. Google is mostly technological. You're going to need more thinkers in Google than what you're going to need with people who are just going to do what they're told. That grace period, you're still fired. Well, that's that's what it's all about. Hire them under par, give them 90 days to show their value, and if they can't show you what makes them important within 90 days, you appreciate them showing up, but you sent them back home. Soon, continuing to do this domino effect, a chain reaction kicks off. The people you helped with the first problem recommend you for the second problem. A lot like being a teacher that teaches all subjects. They came in for one subject, you're helping them with another subject. They tell people about the other subjects that you do, and then they start coming in for the subjects that they know that you do, and they find out that you do even more subjects. You end up going from specifically only teaching one subject to teaching multiple subjects. But because you know more in each one of those subjects, you're able to make enough money to steamroll your uh, uh, your business to get more clients. The skills you mastered on the first problem give you a unique advantage in solving the third. Your influence doesn't grow linearly, it grows exponentially. If you do a podcast or you have your social media channel that um, emphasizes what you already do for work, which advertises what you do for work so that people can come and get that work from you. Say, for example, a mechanic shop. Everyone remembers that show Cribs. The show Exhibit Pimp My Ride, um, because they would fix people's cars on TV, put it together, and put them out there. People would voluntarily try to find these people and bring their cars to these people. If these people were selling car repairs and juicing up these people's cars and giving them somewhat of a discount so that they could air that car on the show, they would have had a substantial business because people are seeing all over the world how amazing these cars look and run after the show is over, customer satisfaction, and they already got a clientele base that's paying for the service. But if you're a mechanic at the house and you're America's top model on your social media channel, and then you're karaoke singing at the bar, you got none of these things are playing off of one another, and none of these things so the other two things don't bring in extra value to the mechanic shop, and the dancing on one side and the singing on the other does not have the ability to flourish because your aches and pains from working at the mechanic shop, that they don't support one another. Your influence must grow exponentially while still being somewhat linear. The knowledge is power and money is the muscle. So you're no longer just pushing one domino at a time. You're letting the momentum of your past success propel you forward. And this is the fundamental shift in thinking. Instead of scattering your energy like a shotgun blast and hoping it hits something, you focus it like a laser. You stop being a flickering candle in a hurricane and become a lighthouse on the shore. Your focus and expertise is the powerful guiding beam towards your success. Adopting this rule means you have to shift from a mindset of addition to one of subtraction. The question is no longer what new skills can I learn this week, but what distractions can I eliminate? It's not about saying yes to every opportunity, but to having the courage to say no to the 99 things that don't align with your one problem. I get it. That can be scary. It feels risky to narrow your focus. What if you pick the wrong problem? What if you get bored? What if you close doors to opportunities and those other opportunities might be more meaningful to you down the line? This fear is the main reason most people stay generalists. They hedge their bets, but in doing so, they're unintentionally choosing mediocrity. It's almost like over diversification. If you spread it too thin, you're less effective than an S&P 500. As the saying goes, he who chases two rabbits catches neither. Learn to be the boss. Well, that's one of the things that we've been talking about on the show. I'm probably going to have to do a whole show just covering that in the upcoming week. Learning the boss mentality. You have to have the mentality of the owner, not the earner. Because when you're from the top down looking at how you can make this better for yourself, it is better than being from the bottom up doing as you're told. Now, yes, good leaders have to be good followers, especially when you're in the chain of command. But in order for you to deviate yourself from working for somebody else for a living to working for yourself for a living, you must find an alternative and then maximize that alternative to the best of your ability. So when the boss leaves, you can walk in and run the job. Now, that's a good factor. If you learn how to be the boss so that when the boss isn't there, you can take over, that can put you in the position of the boss's assistant. Once you become the assistant boss, you're delegating the work to everyone else. When that boss retires, you become the boss. If you're in a chain where a different store needs a boss, you're good with your boss might recommend you to transfer over and be your own boss somewhere else where you're the store manager. Or you might get promoted to regional or district where you just show up to each store, fill in the blanks, and talk to the bosses of the bosses. Yep, one bird in the hand is worth two in the bush. I'm the owner. Now, the one problem rule is an act of professional courage. It's a declaration that says, this is my territory. This is the problem that I will own. When you make that declaration, something remarkable happens. The world starts to organize itself around your focus. The right people, resources, and opportunities begin to find you because you've made yourself easy to find. You've become a signal in the noise by becoming the definitive solver of a specific problem, and you become a magnet. Say, for example, right now, individuals that are dealing with um, tax liens, falling behind on their mortgage notes, um, individuals that are sliding back on their rents. Remember, I was telling you guys about leveraging privatized loans. If you are going to be helping somebody with their mortgage, you're going to throw some extra capital down on their mortgage and put leverage a lien against the property until they pay off the money they borrow from you. Those individuals who can't pay their mortgage this month, next month because they don't have any money, they can give you back money with interest. You, being a private lender, not a loan shark, just one step above it, are able to leverage their assets as collateral towards your capital to make gains off of aiding them in a tough spot. Now, you legitimately bail them out of a tough spot, and the payment option, even if you extend the payment option where you're getting with interest over an extended period of time, but the payment arrangement is so beneficial to the client where they'll recommend you to other people like, hey, if you're in a tight spot, instead of going to Amscot, go to Xander at this and that, and they'll lend you some, you know what I'm saying? That word of mouth recommendation puts you in a position where, because you've specialized in this, people come to you with opportunities. Just like with real estate, you can put real estate up for sale, begging people to come and buy your properties, or because you're willing to buy people's properties at a reasonable rate, people will come hunt you down so that they can get money off of their property more so than what the average individual would offer. The view of life is always best from the top. Okay, yeah, I'm not even gonna challenge that because I think yes, that is the right mindset. I was about to come with a contradiction on it, but I was like, no, no, no. Everything does look better from the top until stress hits. Um, from the highest mountaintops, the tallest skyscrapers, when you're looking down over the city, everything looks beautiful. When you get down there at the bottom floor, you're looking at the bullshit you got to do to get from one side to the other. It's rough. So yes, I'm going to agree with that. Life is always best viewed from the top. Now, the one problem rule isn't just a philosophy; it's a practical system that you can use to start applying the method today. And it's going to break down three core steps. Well, okay, so you're not always going to have stress. You're always going to have something that needs to be done, but it shouldn't have to be stressful. You have things that need to be done right now, which, if you've planned correctly, you should be able to take care of it. You have things that um, are not necessarily needing to be done right now. And if you don't worry about that until it needs to get done, it's not stressing you out. And then if you proactively turn off your to do list brain and ignore issues that are not on a time sensitive schedule, you will find yourself in a situation where you don't actually have stress all the time. You could limit your exposure to stress with work hours. I am only going to focus on stressful situations during these hours. And outside of these hours, anything that might remotely be stressful can be offset to the next stressful time slot, also making it mandatory that I have 1 to 2 days of zero stress attention. So you don't always have to have stress. Now, you can find yourself deliberately putting yourself into stressful situations. Road rage with other cars because you want to go first, you want to cut them off, you want to pass in front of them instead of passing behind them. There's always ways that you can want to force yourself to be stressed by fighting them for the parking space near the door instead of parking the furthest away from the building, or trying to be the first in line instead of getting there whenever you get there. Let the other people go first. Who cares? You're not in a rush because today's your day off. If you're not pressed for time, you're not rushing to get stuff done and you're not pushing past other people to be the first one in line. And that's where stress comes from. You always have to go first because you have too many things to do and you don't have enough time in your day to wait your turn. But if you didn't overstack your schedule, you got all the time in the world. I don't give a fuck if you take a break when I walk up to the register. I'll wait till you come back because I ain't got shit to do today. No stress. So you can have a less stressful life, if not a completely unstressful life, but it requires you to prioritize less, dismiss more, and then strategically focus on the things that needs to be handled at that specific time. And like you said, remember to like and subscribe. No, that's called procrastinating. Well, okay, procrastinating is when you have a deadline. Like, for example, I got something to do in an hour. Procrastinating would be me not preparing for that until 10 minutes before. Now the deadline is here. I'm not ready for it. That's procrastination. If you recognize that you do not have a deadline on what you're about to do, instead of stacking a bunch of things that could get done next week in today's schedule, where you don't have enough time to get it and it gets put off until tomorrow, and it keeps getting put off until you get it done next week. You could have said, well, if it's got to get done by Tuesday, my priority is to get it done by Monday, but today is Saturday, so I don't have to focus on it, which isn't procrastination. Less stress having a doctor, yeah, a banker, uh, a lawyer to handle most of your stress. As to work, let's go fishing. Well, yes, if your employees are doing most of the things, your doctor is paying attention to your health. You have accountants and financial advisors taking care of your money, tax agents taking care of your money. You got your lawyers that are handling your legal situations. All of the stuff in life that would otherwise be stressful and mentally exhausting is taken care of. And if the workers are running the business, time to go fishing. My average daily stress probably a 2 to 3 out of 10. Yeah, that's actually a good way to hold it down. 2 or 3 out of 10. You don't want it to. Usually, you're having a bad day when your stress is 5 out of 10. Parents. So if you're at like a 7 or 8 out of 10, you're talking about 10 is like you're starting to have a stroke, high blood pressure. You're about to pass out from the frustration. You know, 10 is poor health. So 2 or 3 is pretty good. Now, let's break this down into three core steps. First, identify your one problem that you're going to be dealing with, that you're going to master. Second, you want to go deep into it, not wide, deep. No pun intended, ladies. And third, make your solution visible. People can actually see the outcome. So let's break each of these down. We're going to go down even deeper. See what I told you? Found one solution, go deeper. Step one, identifying your one problem. This is the most critical step. You want to find one problem. Doesn't matter what it is, you find that problem. It The one problem isn't about many uh mystical callings. It's a strategic search at the intersection of three things: your specific skills, whatever passions you have, and what the world actually values in that scenario. So, first, your skills. What are you generally good at? Not just things that you can do, but things you could become an elite at. Think beyond your job title. Are you an amazing communicator who can simplify complex ideas? Are you a systems thinker who sees patterns others miss? Or uh, be brutally honest with yourself. What have you consistently been praised for? When people come to you for help, what do they usually ask for? This isn't about what you are good at. Well, actually, no, this is actually specifically more about what you are good at. That's what you want to focus on, not what you wish you were good at. So that's what I was trying to say. It's more about what you're actually good at, not what you wish you were good at. Because I wish I knew 30 different languages, but if I can speak one language very well, then I can practice articulating that language better than most. And then as a communicator, I can communicate the information more efficiently than individuals that speak multiple languages. Now, one project engineer, let's call him Robert. Bert became team leader not through a title, but because his colleagues recognized his exceptional problem solving and software knowledge. Second, the passions. What problems generally fascinate you? He said C. Yes, the C is SI. You're welcome. What do you read about in your spare time? Do you even read? What kind of challenges gives you a jolt of energy? This is a crucial scenario because the journey to your mastery is going to be very long. So your passion is the fuel that will keep you going through the tough spots. You don't want to pick something that everybody else likes, and you don't want to pick something just because the majority of people in your market need that. If you pick a problem just because it's lucrative, you'll eventually burn out on it because it's not your passion. Uh, Bert, I do believe Bert was Bert, Bert and Ernie. But yes, Bert can become a boss. Now, what you choose has to hook you on a deeper level, which motivates you to go better. As a former Starbucks VP, Scott Hayden found your investment in solving a problem as a more powerful motivator than just following a script. Third, and maybe the most important, value. What problem does your industry or company actually need solved? Let's just get software information last week, starting up your own brand, starting up your own store. You can be the world's most passionate expert on underwater basket weaving. But if nobody needs that problem solved, your influence will be limited. The key is to find a problem that causes a real pain point for a specific group of individuals. And the best way to find this, just listen. Listen to your colleagues' complaints. Listen to your customers' frustrations. What are the reoccurring obstacles and bottlenecks? For example, individuals right now are struggling with going to college because the bottlenecking of requirements to get your master's degree in something in order for you to find more financial opportunities that are higher paying above minimum wage. Solution, other ways to reach that educational status without having to go to a 4 year institution. Other ways is creating sources of revenue under your own um, authority that could potentially produce to you a better financial status, especially if you can do something that's more automated. Then the solution is now you can either sell your brand or replicate your brand and sell a subversion of your brand to other people where now your job is not running a business, your job is starting up businesses, letting other people run them. Good leaders don't wait to be told. They spot these gaps and step up. That's where leaders are found. The people who just do what they're told to do when they're told to do it, even if they do it better than anybody else. That person will see a problem and think it is not my problem until somebody tells me it is. If you find yourself in a position where it is your problem until somebody tells you that it's not, you are proactively putting yourself in a position to fix problems. Then, when you're working on a job and people need the fixer, not a fixer, the fixer, everybody's coming to you. Your whole job now is to fix shit while you're at work. And if you're fixing a lot of things for the boss, guess what happens? Recommendations for promotions come. So your one problem lies in the perfect overlap of these three circles. It's a problem that uses your skills, fuels your passion, and provides real value to others. And here's a quick framework to get you started. Ask yourself the frustrating question: what problem in my field frustrates me the most because I know there's a better way? Your greatest influence is often hidden inside your greatest frustrations. The how to question: what do people constantly ask me how to do? This is a huge clue about what others already see your expertise in. Then the if only question. And we have that saying, if was a fifth, we'd all be drunk. If I had a nickel for every time somebody said if, I'd be a billionaire. When you talk to your peers, what sentences start with if only we had a solution for? That blank is a gold mine. The future state question: looking at the trends, what problem is going to become more urgent in the next 5 years? Giving you 5 years to be the problem solver. Owning a future problem is a power move. Just like I told you guys, if you go to Bangladesh and start working on the power source, then build small businesses in that new power grid, and you're building the buildings for those businesses. You're going to lease them out to small business owners and then invest in each one of those small business owners. You're profiting from the power grid that is providing stable electricity to the buildings that you put down that are going to be leased by small business owners that are going to give you back profits on your investments, which means, and you're guaranteeing that you're going to be successful because the load shedding is not going to occur in your network because you have mastered the source of electricity for that area. So you solve the problem, generated revenue to expand on a problem, which is problem number two, where you can now invest in individuals who each have problem number three. One, they had a problem with electricity. Two, they had a problem with enough commercial space to start up businesses. And then three, they had a problem with startup capital. If you're tackling other people's problems in that factor where they play into one another, you are the go to guy. Choosing your one problem is going to be a commitment. It doesn't have to be for life, but it gives you focus for the next 2 to 3 years. So if you're trying to master something that's going to become a thing in the next 5 years, if you're starting to do it within the first 2 to 3 years, you get really good at it so that by the time it becomes a problem, year 4, year 5, you're already mastering it. You've already got all the solutions for it. And that's enough time to build serious expertise and a reputation to match it. Step two, go deep, not wide, deep. Once you've identified your problem, the next phase is to get obviously obsessive and relentless so that you can be good at solving it. Not just good, great. And this is where you trade the frantic, shallow energy of the generalist for the calm, intense focus of the specialist. It's time for deep work. Deep work is not going to be a mic drop moment. Deep work is going to be a, oh, that's it moment. This isn't a situation where you come in and do something fancy and everybody applauds. It comes in and flip a switch and everybody's relieved. Deep work is simply the ability to focus without distraction on a tough task, pushing your skills to their limits and sometimes beyond. This is where you create real value and become hard to replicate. This requires a radical shift in your habits. The goal is to spend a big chunk of your productivity time in a state of deep focus, dedicated only to your one problem. It's not enough to think about it between meetings. You have to carve out a fiercely uh, uh, designed for improving your mastery. And maybe it's 2 hours every morning before you open your emails, or dedicating every Friday to it. During this time, your mission is to learn, practice, and iterate, sometimes even reiterate. When you're learning, you want to read everything. Go beyond the surface level blog posts. Find the academic papers, the dense textbooks, the obscured forum discussions. Follow the top thinkers. You don't just want to know the common answers, you want to understand the fundamental principles. Then practice. Expertise isn't built by just reading, it's built by doing. This is about deliberate practice. Break the problem down and work on each part. If your problem is reducing customer churn, you might practice data analysis, then practice writing retention emails, then practice conducting exit interviews. Notice when you try to turn off your cable with Cox Cable, they put you in, they redirect you to the cancellation and recovery team, which is a group of people who will plead with you not to give up your service and try to find ways to keep you from terminating your service. If your goal is to turn off your service, you will spend 45 minutes on the call arguing with them to turn off your service because you don't want it. And they are going to try their best to offer you more than what you originally had and try to finagle it in a way where you're still paying something for something because the goal is to retain you as a customer. Now, you're not going to have a solution for every problem, but if you can have a solution for the reason why they're no longer there, they don't want to be there anymore, that resolves your issue. Master each component in the core problem, and you'll be able to be the go to guy for that type of problem. Then you want to iterate it. Don't just copy existing solutions, create your own. Always looking for an unorthodox method. Develop your own framework for solving the problems. Run small experiments. Test your ideas. Document your failures as well as your successes. This is how you go from being a practitioner to a thought leader. You stop executing the playbook and start writing a new one. Going deep also means getting good at saying no. It means saying no to interesting projects that distract you from your main project. It means declining meetings that don't move you forward on your problem. It means pruning your commitments. This is often the hardest part, especially for people pleasers. But every yes to something outside of your focus is a no to deepening your expertise. As author Greg McNone says, you have to make the trade offs. This intense focus doesn't just produce better work, it also uh, is deeply fulfilling. It's the antidote to the scattered, anxious state of the generalist. The focus helps you master new skills and overcome challenges faster, leading to better results in less time. Then, step three, you're able to make your solutions visible. Become the world's foremost expert on a problem is useless if nobody knows it. Your expertise has to be visible. Influence isn't just about what you know, it's about what others think you know. The final step is to start sharing your expertise with the world. This isn't about obnoxious self promotions, it's about generally sharing what you're learning and the solutions you're developing. You want to shift from being a problem solver who waits to be asked to a solution provider who proactively helps others. Here's a few powerful ways to do that. Create content, just like what we're doing today. This is the most scalable way to signal your expertise. Write articles, record short videos, start a newsletter, or post thoughtful threads on social media about your one problem. Document your journey, share your framework, explain common mistakes. You don't have to be a guru to start. You just need to be one step ahead of your audience. Proactively help others. Become the go to person at work. When you see a colleague struggling with your one problem, offer to help, but only offer to help with the one problem that you're mastering. Don't wait to be asked. Use team chat to share a helpful tips or a resource. When you become an internal resource, your colleagues will become your biggest advocates. Then you want to speak and teach. Look for opportunities to present on your topic. This could be a formal talk at a conference, a casual lunch and learn for your team, or even a guest spot on a small podcast like this and that. The act of teaching forces you to clarify your thinking and immediately positions you as an authority. Build a tool or a system because you can turn your solution into a repeatable process, a checklist, a template, or even a simple piece of code. Creating a tangible asset that helps others solve the problem is an incredibly powerful way to build influence. It makes your solution scalable and gives people something concrete to talk about. Try unorthodox methods because I love unorthodox methods. To really accelerate your influence, think outside the box. Practical, radical transparency by sharing your struggles and mistakes, not just your wins. This builds incredible trust. Consider giving away your best ideas by open sourcing a tool you've developed. This can attract collaborators and position you as a uh, confident leader. Another idea is reverse mentoring. Ask someone more junior for their perspective on your problem to get a fresh eye on it. You don't need to find somebody that's smarter than you to help you with your problem. You just need to set up the problem the way it is, have somebody else look at it and give you more ideas on how to approach the problem. They can give you ideas you've already got, and that reinforces that solution as a viable solution. But they can also give you ideas that you never thought about. And then it is your responsibility to figure out how to incorporate that if possible. The key to all of this is generosity. You're not hoarding your knowledge, you're giving it away. A lot of people these days are selling the knowledge, and they're probably making a pretty good penny off of it. You're operating from a place of abundance, confidence that the more value you provide, the more will flow back to you. This is the principle of reciprocity in action. We also call it karma. By consistently showing up and solving one problem, you make yourself impossible to ignore. When you commit to the one problem rule, the initial benefits are obviously able to be seen. You get better at your job and feel less overwhelmed on the job. But the real game changing rewards are the surprising opportunities that emerge from your focused expertise. There are the payoffs that generalists almost never experiences. Let's look at a couple of mini case studies. First one, we have Sarah, the API whisperer. Sarah was a good software developer on a large team, like Generalist Jen. She was a decent at everything. She was helpful, but not seen as a leader. She noticed her team was constantly struggling with a complex, poorly documented third party API. It was a huge source of frustration. This became her one problem. She used her deep work time to meticulously reverse engineer the API. She built a private library of functions to simplify common tasks. She wrote detailed internal documentation, the manual her team wished they had. Then she started sharing her work in Slack and ran a lunch and learn session. The first payoff was immediate. Her team's productivity shot up. But then the surprising payoffs began. Magnetic branding. Soon, developers from other teams were reaching out to her. Her name becomes synonymous with that API. She was the API whisperer. It wasn't a formal title, but it was a brand that carried real weight. Serendipitous opportunities is a senior director hearing about her expertise pulled her into a high stakes planning meeting for a future partnership that depended on that very same API. Suddenly, she was in a room where big decisions were being made, an opportunity she's never would have had as a generalist. And this is the halo effect. Expertise in one area makes people assume you're competent in others. Cross industry influence is yet another area. She started a small blog about her solutions. A developer in a completely different industry, which is healthcare, found her blog. It turned out her insights were directly applicable to a problem in medical software. She was invited to speak at a healthcare tech conference, expanding her influence into a whole new domain. Sarah didn't become more influential by learning 10 new program languages. She did it by mastering a single high valued problem. Case study number two, David, the B2B TikTok guru. David was a marketing manager at a B2B software company. His team was spread thin across dozen channels with mediocre results everywhere. David was fascinated by short form videos and had a question nobody could answer. How could a boring B2B company actually use TikTok to get leads? This became his one problem. He got permission to run a small experiment. He spent his deep work time studying the platform and testing content. Most of his early videos flopped, but he was relentless, documenting every trial and error. He was also radically transparent, sharing his failures and small wins in a weekly internal email. Eventually, he had a breakthrough. A quirky 60-second video explaining a complex industry concept went viral in their niche. It generated more qualified leads in 1 week than their Google Ads budget had in the last quarter. The payoffs were staggering, creating an internal movement. His experiment became the talk of the company. Other departments wanted to learn his methods. He single handedly shifted the company's culture towards creativity and experimentation. The unexpected personal growth here was to make good videos. David had to become a better storyteller, a more concise writer, and more confident on camera. Solving his one problem forced him to develop a whole suite of valuable new skills. The career acceleration comes next. Within a year, David was promoted to a new role, Director of Innovative Channels. That didn't even exist in the company before he started doing it. He went from being one of many marketing managers to the company's designated expert on the future of digital marketing. Other companies started inviting him to speak, and he became a recognized voice in his field. In both stories, the pattern is the same. Focused efforts on a single problem creates a chain reaction. It builds credibility, which multiplies attention and fuels momentum. The best benefits are rarely the ones you can predict. They're the unexpected doors that open because you become a beacon of value. You stop chasing these opportunities, and instead, opportunities start chasing you. For too long, we've been told the same lies that doing more, being more, and knowing a little about everything is the path to success. The result is a generation of professionals who are overworked, overwhelmed, and underutilized. They're busy, but not impactful. They're knowledgeable, but not authoritative. The truth is the opposite. The real secret to unlocking your influence is to do less, but with intensity. That's impossible to ignore. This is the one rule or the one problem rule. It's about having the clarity to identify the one problem you were meant to solve. It's about having the discipline to go deep, not wide, and to choose mastery over mediocrity. And it's about having the generosity to share your solutions and become a source of value for others. Now, this isn't an easy path. It requires the courage to say no, the patience to stay the course, and the humility to admit you can't be an expert in everything. But the payoff is a career of profound impact. You'll build a reputation that precedes you and attracts opportunities you can't even imagine today. You'll go from being a cog in the machine to the engineer who designs a better machine. So you'll leave with the challenge. And I want to see what you're going to do with the one that I'm going to give you. Not for next year, not for next month, but for right now. What is the one problem that you will commit to solving? What is the one area you will choose to go deep? What is the one thing you will decide to be known for? Find your first domino, focus all your energy on it, and then watch the chain reactions begin. If you found this framework valuable and you want more strategies to build your influence, remember to take time out of your day to hit that subscription button, turn on the notification buttons, and like this video. and make sure that you share it with somebody that you know who will need it so that you don't miss out on what's next. Now, I want to know, what is your one problem? Let me know in the comments below because I read every single one of them and I'd love to hear what challenges you are ready to take on. Now, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that, but I want to start off by saying, ladies, as long as the situation doesn't make sense, I'm going to have to ask you, ladies, to make it make sense. So, ladies, please make it make sense. And then, fellas, I do this to help you guys become higher value men. If you guys take what I have to give you and utilize it to improve your ability to become higher value men by changing your personal life as well as your business life, you will find the peace of mind to help you focus more on your one real problem. You can even make it a group thing. You can have a one family problem where you and your wife or you and your husband can get together and work on this one real problem, turn it into the family business where you teach the kids how to master this one real problem. By the time they're 18, they would have been doing this one real problem for 10 to 15 years so that in their adult life, they would be really good at specializing this one real problem, which makes them a pioneer in their generation because most of us do not even start trying to develop skills until after we get out of college, 25 to 32. If you start teaching your kids right now how to solve problems, that can become a source of revenue. By the time your children become adults, they will be experienced problem solvers. And not only solving the problems, automating the problems, automating the solution to the problems, and then turning a revenue off of that. I told a buddy of mine he had a bunch of fantastic startup ideas, but he never saw any of those ideas through to a profit. I explained to him, pick something and stick with it until after you get paid for it. And then find a way to have the profits pay for it to get done for you so that you can keep getting money off of it without having to do it anymore before you move on to something else. That's the best way to go. Because I mean, if you're gonna if your problem is how to start up a business and you put forth the effort to start up businesses on a regular basis, the majority of them should stay afloat. And then if you're selling off successful businesses to entrepreneurs who did not know how to get it started, but they're willing to give you their seed money to run it for you, and then you just take a percentage, you could turn yourself into a loan shark model where you start up the business, sell it off to them, and get 20% of the profits for the rest of the existence of the company. You made back all the money you put into it, and you're still getting 20% off of all of the profits that somebody else is earning on the business that you created. You don't have to be the face of every company that your money is involved in. You just have to get a check from each one of them that exists. Think about that for a second. Now, I want to thank you guys for coming to this and that. I'm your host, Xander, where we talk about this, that, and everything in between. And I'm going to see you guys tomorrow night.
Higher ground. Used to chase validation, now I validate myself. My network is my net worth. Choose your company wise. Surround yourself with eagles, not with sheep in disguise. Every interaction is a reflection of my brand. Quality over quantity, that's my personal command. I'm not landing on higher ground where excellence is found. My potential knows no bounds, raising the bar, breaking ground. I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never I'm not just living, I'm manifesting my vision, cutting through limitations with surgical precision. My expectations are my compass, my respect is my shield to mediocrity and chaos. I will never yield.